Real Virginia is proudly produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. For almost a century, Farm Bureau has been a friend of the farm for all Virginians. Visit our website at vafb.com.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and the people who produce the wonderful local products we enjoy. Brought to you by the Virginia Farm Bureau. Here's what's coming up in this week's program. Blue crab season is here, and we visit Virginia's most remote source for that delicacy. Chef Tammy shares her own recipe for delicious crab cakes, and modern agriculture's roots run deep in Virginia.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Welcome back to Real Virginia, everyone. We're coming to you this week from Reedville, Virginia, where some 20 miles behind me lies Tangier Island. It's been called the soft-shell crab capital of the world, and for centuries, living off aquaculture has been a staple of this small island community in the middle of the Chesapeake Bay.
Most trips from Virginia to Tangier Island begin with a ferry ride, either from Reedville on Virginia's northern neck, or in this case from Anancock on the eastern shore. The tiny island in the middle of the Chesapeake Bay is only 3.5 miles long and 1 mile wide. The first permanent settlers arrived in 1731 and were largely subsistence farmers. Only after fishing and aquaculture entered the picture did people here have an industry that could create a livelihood spanning centuries. Today, most watermen like Tangier Mayor James Hooker Eskridge are involved in crabbing and oystering.
Got a couple, 3 males in this one. You want to just drop it under the surface and form it?
The seagrass growing at the bottom of the bay is important to the crabbing industry here because they provide shelter from underwater predators. The water temperature is also an important factor.
The crabs only molt when the water temperature at its warmest. They need just the warmer water to do that.
Softshell crabs start out as peeler crabs, a blue crab just getting ready to molt. They're taken out of the cage and placed into warm water tanks like these for monitoring.
Once it starts to come out of the shell, we separate it into a shed and tank because the other crabs will eat soft crabs. And then once it does shed, you have a few hours, the shell will stay soft. And then refrigerated hard crabs or soft crabs, they'll survive 2 or 3 days out of the water.
Mayor Eskridge started crabbing with his father when he was 9 years old and knew that's what he wanted to do for the rest of his life. Paul Wheatley grew up the same way, going out with his father on the waters at the age of 13. He begins his mornings now just as he did then, preparing crab cages across the main harbor watermen use on Tangier Island. He's hoping for a good day, but there are limits to the number of crabs he can catch.
Here, they go up to 47 in the summertime, but very few times you catch 47 in the summertime.
Right.
Usually you catch your bulk of your crabs like in the spring and fall. They're coming from the north in the spring, coming from the southern in the fall.
Tangier Island has lost approximately 2/3 of its size since the 1800s, and some geologists predict it will be uninhabitable in as little as 25 years if nothing is done to prevent the erosion and rising water levels.
The erosion is a big part of it because, like between here and Smith, you've got a lot of small islands, and these islands protect the seagrasses. Once the land disappears, then the wave action is able to destroy the grass beds.
A seawall started in 1989 on the west side of Tangier Island has helped fight the erosion and rising tide. And a jetty near the harbor was built after a 2017 phone call from the White House. However, these watermen and all of the island residents hope the federal government can provide funding for another seawall on the other side of the island, plus additional dredging that could keep the island inhabitable. The Virginia Department of Environmental Quality recently gave a grant of $2.3 million for environmental protection and mitigation projects.
Very hard work.
The people of Tangier Island have a distinct accent that goes back from the original families from Cornwall, England that settled here. The island has a rich history, seen and unseen.
During the War of 1812, this was the British, this was their base of operations, Tangier. They had a huge fort on the beach, Fort Albion. They said at one point they had as many as 12,000 troops over here. And of course the actual site now is offshore.
The island is actually comprised of 3 smaller islands connected by bridges, like this one.
Big marsh. See, the marsh is bigger.
The watermen who depend on the bay for their livelihood are also aware of the threat posed by the erosion and rising sea levels.
I'll tell you another thing, Stephanie, besides the water. There's little crabs called fiddlers. They're digging our island up.
The crabbers and oystermen of Tangier Island are part of a unique community where traditions of the Victorian Methodist Church in the 1700s are still active. No alcohol can be purchased, but you're allowed to bring your own. With some 300 residents, signs of Tangier Island's remote disposition are also evident. There's little to no cell phone service, although talks are underway with Verizon to bring broadband here in the hopes of attracting more work-from-home residents. For now, enjoy the soft-shell crabs these watermen provide. They can be ordered at fine restaurants in Virginia and elsewhere, but the best way to enjoy them is to have them at one of Tangier Island's restaurants, where the work and the way of life can be appreciated. On Tangier Island, part of Accomack County, Virginia, I'm Burke Moeller reporting.
Virginia's blue crab population has been slowly recovering since 2007, when it had declined to the point that the Virginia Marine Resources Commission canceled the winter crabbing season. This was obviously a hardship for watermen and processors. But according to surveys, the female blue crab population was larger in 2023 than 2022, and the crab hibernation period has shortened as the Chesapeake Bay's waters have warmed, even with a shorter harvest season. In 2021, Virginia's blue crab industry was valued at $35 million.
I'm Mark Viette. Coming up on In the Garden, we're going to talk about Rosette. Stay with us.
Farming is a rewarding way of life, but it can also be full of challenges. If you or someone you know is struggling, call or text the AgriStress helpline at 833-897-2473. It offers 24/7 access to professionals who can support someone in need and help find mental health services in your community. Please make the call, because healthy farms depend on healthy farm families. That's 833-897-2474.
It's sometimes known as witch's broom disease. Mark Viette shows us Rosette and how to treat it in the garden.
Rosette is a disease of roses that kill your roses. So after maybe 3 years, your rose is probably going to die or not be attractive at all. And what they determined is that when hurricanes came up from Africa all the way up to us, it brought with it, it's not an insect, but it's a mite. And so when the aerophoid mite, or the mite, find your roses, they suck the juices out of the leaves, out of the flowers, out of the buds. It causes this problem at the base of your rose. It's kind of gnarly, twisted, curled, very tiny growth. I'll show you some other pictures of it in a minute, but it's not attractive. It becomes more yellow or pale, and if you have this, where this here, and I'm going to show you this, when you see this twisted, gnarly growth, and you can see on the back where it kind of twists into a dwarf ball. It's not nice and open with foliage. And it also turns like a pinkish red. So it turns yellow on the outside and a pinkish red where, if you look against my shirt, you can see this curly pinkish red. When your rose decline, there's less nice leaves like you see in this area here, and it appears to be excessive thorns because the leaves are not able to cover all the thorns that are present. So I picked off a little piece here, and just to show you the difference, it's from the same rose. This is a nice, healthy leaf on this section of the rose because it might only attack certain portions of the rose. But here with the virus, you can see the difference, a big difference. So this definitely is a sign that you're getting rosette. So what do you do if you have it? Well, since I've got another rose here, which I don't notice it on yet, and I have other roses in the garden back of the house, what they recommend is you take this and you destroy it. So that means, now, if you had just one little ball on this plant, you might be able to cut it off and cut it out. Maybe it's a virus, maybe this virus did not get in all the regions of the rose bush. You would want to sterilize your tools, probably 1 part bleach to 25 parts water. They made bleach a lot stronger now, and it will kill viruses. I also make sure I have sharp equipment, and I like the loppers because if you had to reach in here by hand, you could get pricked by a thorn. I'm looking at this rose here, and it looks somewhat healthy. So my assumption is I'm going to leave it and not take it out. I know the roses in the back of the house don't have it, but if I see signs of rosette, I will remove it entirely and put it in your trash. Don't put it in the compost pile. I'm Mark Viette. Join me next time in the garden.
Email your garden questions to viette@viette.com.
Hi, I'm Chef Tammy Brawley. Coming up on Heart of the Home, Virginia crab cakes. Stay with us.
Every spring and fall, Virginia farmers and other motorists nearly collide on rural roads. Sometimes these collisions can be dangerous or even fatal when a car traveling 55 miles an hour suddenly meets much slower moving farm equipment. The odds of a collision shoot up. Farm equipment operators are required to display a slow-moving vehicle emblem when they're on a public road. When you see that, slow down. Give them plenty of space to do their job. This message brought to you by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation Safety Advisory Committee.
Crab cakes are a hearty way to enjoy Virginia crab meat. Chef Tammy shares her recipe for this delicious dish from the heart of the home.
Hi, I'm Chef Tammy Brawley from the Green Kitchen. Welcome to Heart of the Home. Today I'm going to show you guys how to make crab cakes. Now, just like 10 different chefs in a room, you can get 10 different ways to do onions, cut onions, 10 different ways to cook anything. This happens to be my favorite recipe for crab cakes. I'm going to show you how to do it. We have a bowl here, and we're going to go ahead and add about 1 pound of lump crab. I usually just dump it in. I had already started zesting my lemon, so I'm going to finish that up right now. So we've got fresh zest of lemon in here. You know, if you have one of these microplane graters, you'd be surprised how many people use it the wrong way. You actually want to turn the fruit in your hand while you're zesting, and the zest collects in the track. So many people turn it the other way, and you really don't want to get any of the white part of the lemon in there because it is bitter. So we've got all that nice lemon zest in there. Now, what you don't see in front of you here are any sort of measurements. You want to look at your crab and determine how much of the other ingredients do I want to add, and you certainly don't want to add too many, because you don't want these to be soupy and you don't want them to be very full of a lot of moisture. You want them to actually have little binder in them. So we're going to start with just breaking that up a little bit. Beautiful crab there. I'm going to add a little salt and pepper. We're going to go ahead and crack an egg in there. Just 1 egg is usually sufficient for 1 pound of crab meat. I'm going to throw a little panko breadcrumbs in there. You know, and breadcrumbs are easy to make on your own, guys. If you have a loaf of stale bread at home, you don't know what to do with it, cut it up and dice it. Put it in the oven at about 300 or so. Let it get nice and crispy, and then you guys have your own breadcrumbs. And then we're going to just dollop in a couple of dollops of mayonnaise, a little bit of Dijon mustard. Mustard is your choice. I happen to like Dijon. I like that little vinegary taste. But you can use plain yellow mustard. You could use a spicy brown mustard, whatever you wish. You want probably about a half as much of the mustard as you did the mayonnaise. You also want a little bit of dry ground mustard. So I'm going to do about a half a teaspoon. And we want some lemon juice in addition to that lemon zest. Add that in there. Don't think we need quite all that, so we're not going to do it all. And then one of my favorite ingredients to come back with on this is, believe it or not, Parmesan cheese. So it adds to the binder part of it, which I think is great. Don't quite think we need all of that. And then I'm going to set this to the side real quickly here because I just do want to chop some parsley. When you see this recipe, it's going to tell you dried parsley. It's perfectly fine to use dried if you'd like. I happen to have a prolific amount of parsley in my own garden at home. So I'm going to go ahead and just chop up some parsley real quick. Set aside a few sprigs for garnish at the end. It really, when you use fresh herbs, the flavors really pick up well in your recipe. So anytime you can use fresh herbs, I highly recommend it. Now, if you do use dried herbs, a little rule of thumb would be half as much dried as fresh. But again, when you see this recipe, you're not going to see measurements. Cooking is based on all of your senses, not just what that recipe says. So what you want to just do is eyeball what it looks like, throw in a little fresh parsley there. All right, now we're going to come back to it. And then what I've got going on over here, guys, is I've got a burner on here, and we have got butter and oil in it. Actually, I don't think I added the oil. Butter and oil together. The oil keeps the butter from burning. And, of course, butter always adds flavor, which I love. So now we're going to come back in here. We're going to mix everything together. We have the egg. We have the panko. We have the Parmesan cheese, salt and pepper. We've got the mayonnaise and the mustard. You can eyeball that. Does that look too moist? I personally don't think so. And 9 times out of 10, when you're using a nice lump crab, you're not going to have a lot of shells in that, if any at all. And you really don't want to break it up too much. You certainly don't want to puree this. While our burner is warming up over there, we're going to come back and start forming these. Now, interestingly enough, as I'm forming these, I'm noticing that there is a lot of moisture in that. I think we need a little bit more breadcrumb. So I'm going to come back to my panko. A little bit more. Once again, you're using your instincts, guys, when you look at this. Does it look too wet? Do I need to add a little bit more dry? But you don't want a lot of filler. I can hear our fat is warming up quite nicely in our pan, so we need to get ready to put these in there. How big do you want these? Well, you know, mini sizes are great for parties, you know, showers, baby showers, bridal showers. Dinner portions, I would say you probably want about that size there. This looks really nice. We're going to go on right into the fat with it. Let's get a couple in there. Try to be consistent in your sizes. You know, a pound of crab meat with about 2 ounces per, maybe 3. You're looking at about 8 crab cakes, 6 to 8. These take a few minutes. They're going to get brown on the bottom. We're going to flip them over, and then we're going to eat. All right, so we've been watching the crab cakes. We've got them flipped already once. We're going to go for this last one. And all you're looking for is that brown, crusty exterior. I think they look beautiful. Sometimes your crab cakes don't want to cooperate if I haven't had enough fat on that side of the pan. This one seems to want to give me a little bit of a fit. That's all right. We're going to flip it anyway. But we've got some here that are already done, so we're going to go ahead and plate those. A couple on our platter here. And there you have it, some nice crab cakes with some Virginia crab. I'm Tammy Brawley with the Green Kitchen. We hope you'll join us next time on Heart of the Home.
Recipes from the Heart of the Home can be found on the Virginia Farm Bureau website at vafb.com/recipes, as well as on Chef Tammy Brawley's website at greenkitchenrichmond.com.
Crabs are an important part of Virginia's valuable seafood industry. A recent Virginia Marine Products Board study estimated the overall economic impact to be more than $1 billion a year. Virginia is the nation's fourth largest seafood producer and the largest on the East Coast. Oysters, blue crab, sea scallops, clams, summer flounder, striped bass, spot, black sea bass, and blue catfish are the top species caught in Virginia waters. Some oysters and clams are harvested in the wild, but many are farm-raised. According to the study, each year Virginia commercial fishermen harvest enough seafood to produce 123 million meals.
Virginia farmers like to note that agriculture is the state's largest industry. Perhaps that's because they got a head start on everything else over 400 years ago. Ricky Gibson takes a look at Virginia's farming roots.
A look to the past can illuminate the present, and many Virginians find the time-traveling powers of living history are reconnecting them with their agricultural roots.
We like to say to visitors who come to visit us here at our farm site that somewhere in your heritage there was a farmer. So every human at one point grew their own food. They farmed, they gardened. And so it's in all of our blood to do that.
At Colonial Williamsburg, visitors can get their hands dirty with historical crops and farming methods to connect with Virginia's 18th century agricultural heritage at the town's Ewing Field.
We try to be a hands-on site, first and foremost. And one of the advantages to what we're doing here is we're kind of low technology and high labor. And so we're able to get high school groups, school groups that are visiting for their history lessons. We get them out in the field and they're all using hoes, breaking up clods, hilling up mounds, weeding. I get them to split up rails. We have a variety of different physical activities that the kids, they're a little hesitant at first. And then once they actually start working, they don't want to stop.
Virginia was the wealthiest of the 13 original colonies thanks to tobacco, the most valuable crop in the New World. But while it brought great wealth to plantation owners, most Virginia farmers focused on raising food for their families.
They might have been growing 5 to 10 acres of tobacco, but they were probably growing somewhere between 20 to 60 acres of corn just to feed themselves and possibly their livestock. They will also grow quite large kitchen gardens, produce patches, anywhere from a ½ acre up to 10 acres to support their families. Non-agricultural crops like beans, squash, pumpkins, potatoes, sweet potatoes, to feed their family.
A quick trip west on I-64 from Williamsburg to the Shenandoah Valley will fast-forward visitors to Virginia's western frontier. Here is where farmers from a variety of cultures built their lives.
The Frontier Culture Museum is about the formation of a unique sort of American subculture that grows up here in the Shenandoah Valley from people from West Africa, Europe, places like England, Ireland, Germany, as well as Native American culture. Those cultures are all going to collide here in the Shenandoah, and they're going to start to form a new American subculture. Here at the museum, we use agriculture largely as a lens through which we can view those cultural changes. Obviously, agriculture influences the things people eat. It influences how they work. It influences things like their holidays. So we choose to use that as sort of the vehicle by which we talk about culture.
At the 18th century farm site, Ray Wright shares how many of the European settlers came with the hope of a better life in the New World.
The 1760s exhibit, we can start as early as probably the 1740s with it, but it depicts what the first folks would have experienced when they got here. So in the museum, we talk about people from West Africa, we talk about people from England, we talk about people from what's now Germany, Northern Ireland, and guess what? All those people were farmers. And one of the things that drew them to North America, that drew them to the colony of Virginia and to the colony of Pennsylvania, was the hope for and the opportunity for perhaps becoming landowners themselves.
Just around the corner and 100 years later at the 1850s exhibit Interpreter Caitlin McCreary not only demonstrates how the Shenandoah Valley was the breadbasket of the South, but also connects patrons with the source of everyday products.
Being able to actually show them is like, this is the wheat or the rye that we're growing, this is how they would process it, then you send it to mill and then it turns into flour. And from there we can go in the kitchen and make that bread and show them how that process would work too. So we can go from start to finish.
Tierney demonstrates how another historical crop was important to Virginia's agricultural past and possibly the future.
Here at the Frontier Culture Museum, we were approached by Dr. Sam Morton from James Madison University just a few years ago about being one of his partners in growing hemp. Dr. Morton does research on modern commercial applications for hemp for all kinds of things like creating paper, things like creating textiles. They make these wacky concrete blocks you can build houses out of. But we're interested in hemp because of its historical relevance. It was an incredibly important cash crop to this region from the 1760s up through the early 1780s.
Both the Frontier Culture Museum and Colonial Williamsburg are open year-round, but July is an especially good time to visit.
That's when we're harvesting our long grains. Our corn is up and looking like corn at this point. The gardens are in full bloom. We're beginning to harvest things from our gardens. So July is a really good month agriculturally to visit the museum.
As we talk about agricultural interpretation here at the museum, it is so much more than just, hey, look, there's something growing out of the ground. It is a lens through which we view ourselves. It is a lens through which we view our culture, America more broadly, how we came to be who we are.
For more information on these agricultural time machines, visit colonialwilliamsburg.org or frontiermuseum.org. From Stanton, Virginia, I'm Ricky Gibson reporting.
We're so glad you could join us to celebrate all the bounty Virginia has to offer. From the kitchen to your home and garden to our beautiful wide open spaces, we're proud to say that this is Real Virginia. For everyone from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching. Make it a great week.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Spending time outdoors has never felt more valuable, whether it's exploring nature or relaxing in your yard. Let's do it responsibly. Before going out, check for closures and fire restrictions. Practice social distancing, even when outside and on the trail. Back at home, if burning yard debris, keep your pile small. And no matter where you are, be sure to properly extinguish any outdoor fire. Drown, stir, drown, feel. We're all in this together. Help keep our safe places safe.
You're going to need me. You're going to need us. All of us. You're going to need our help with your water, your air, your food. You're going to need our determination, our compassion. You're going to need the next generation of leaders to face the challenges the future will bring. And we promise we'll be there when you need us.